ever imagined a country where the earth rises so high it seems to touch the edge of heaven? A land where ancient temples stand beneath snow-covered giants, where prayer flags move with the Himalayan wind, and where entire kingdoms once hid behind walls of stone, silence, and myth. This is Nepal, not just a country between India and China, but a world suspended between earth and sky. Here, the tallest mountain on the planet watches over sacred valleys. Medieval cities preserve the memory of kings, artists, and gods. Monasteries echo with chants that have crossed centuries. And far beyond the familiar roads, in the dry cliffs of Mustang, lies a place once known as one of the last forbidden kingdoms on Earth. This journey is not only about landscapes, it is about faith, survival, altitude, silence, and the human desire to live close to the impossible. Welcome to Nepal. Inside the last forbidden kingdom on Earth, a journey through some of the most unforgettable, impossible places in the Himalayas. Mount Everest, Sagarmatha National Park. Mount Everest is not simply the tallest mountain on Earth. It is a symbol of ambition, fear, endurance, and awe. Rising to 29,032 feet, or 8,849 meters, Everest stands at the heart of Sagarmatha National Park, a vast Himalayan world of glaciers, icefalls, deep valleys, and high-altitude villages. In Nepali, Sagarmatha means forehead of the sky, and the name feels almost perfect. This is a place where the land no longer feels connected to ordinary geography. The journey toward Everest often begins with a dramatic flight into Lukla, one of the most famous mountain airstrips in the world. From there, the trail moves through Sherpa villages, suspension bridges, pine forests, and stone paths lined with prayer wheels. Every step carries travelers deeper into a world shaped by altitude. As the trail rises, breathing becomes slower, the air grows thinner. Mountains begin to appear like walls of ice and stone. Amadablam, Hotse, Nuptse, and Everest itself dominate the horizon with a power that makes every human structure feel temporary. For the Sherpa people, these mountains are not just climbing objectives, they are sacred presences. Monasteries, mani stones, and prayer flags remind visitors that this landscape is spiritual as much as physical. The mountain is respected, not simply conquered. Sagarmatha National Park is one of the great impossible places on Earth because everything here feels extreme. The height, the cold, the silence, the danger, and the beauty. Standing beneath Everest, you understand that some places do not need to move in order to overwhelm you. Their stillness is enough. Before we go deeper into Nepal, tell us in the comments, would you rather see Everest from the trail or from a helicopter above the clouds? Kathmandu Valley. Kathmandu Valley is where Nepal's spiritual heart beats loudest. Surrounded by hills and watched over by distant Himalayan peaks, the valley has been a center of culture, trade, religion, and royal power for centuries. At first glance, Kathmandu can feel chaotic, crowded streets, honking traffic, narrow alleys, shops, temples, wires, incense, and endless movement. But look closer, and the chaos begins to reveal an ancient order. Hidden between modern buildings are courtyards filled with shrines. Stone statues sit beside busy roads, prayer wheels spin beside market stalls. The scent of incense mixes with dust, flowers, food, and rain. This is not a city that separates the sacred from daily life. In Kathmandu Valley, the sacred is everywhere. For generations, the valley was shaped by newer culture. One of the most artistic and influential traditions in Nepal. Wood carving, metalwork, temple architecture, festival rituals, and public squares all carry the marks of this deep cultural identity. The valley includes some of Nepal's most important historic cities and monuments. Kathmandu, Patan, and Bhaktapur once stood as powerful city kingdoms, each competing to build more beautiful palaces, temples, and public spaces. This competition created one of the richest cultural landscapes in Asia. Kathmandu Valley belongs among Nepal's impossible places, not because it is remote, but because so many worlds exist inside it at once. Hindu and Buddhist traditions overlap. Ancient kings and modern life share the same streets. Devotion, commerce, memory, and survival all move together. To walk through Kathmandu Valley is to feel that history here has not disappeared. It is still breathing beside you. If these Himalayan views already feel unreal, stay with us. Nepal is about to reveal sacred cities, wild jungles, and a hidden kingdom beyond the mountains. Pokhara. Pokhara is the place where Nepal slows down and begins to reflect the sky. Located beside Fewa Lake and surrounded by green hills, Pokhara is famous for one of the most beautiful mountain backdrops in the world. On a clear morning, the Annapurna Range appears above the city like a wall of snow and light. The most iconic peak, Macha Puchar, or Fishtail Mountain, rises in a sharp, triangular form that seems almost too perfect to be natural. Unlike the intense energy of Kathmandu, Pokhara feels gentle. Boats move slowly across the lake. Cafes line the shore. Paragliders float above the valley. Travelers gather at sunrise to watch the mountains turn pink, gold, and white. But Pokhara is more than a peaceful lakeside town. It is the gateway to some of Nepal's most famous trekking routes, including the Annapurna region. For many travelers, this is where the Himalayan dream begins. The surrounding landscape is full of contrast: calm water below, snow peaks above, caves, waterfalls, ridges, and villages spread across the hills. One of the most famous viewpoints is Sarankot, where visitors wake before dawn and climb into the cold morning air to watch the first light touch the mountains. At that moment, the entire horizon seems to ignite. Pokhara is one of Nepal's most accessible, impossible places because it offers something rare: the feeling of standing close to the Himalayas without needing to climb into extreme altitude. Here, the impossible does not arrive with danger. It arrives quietly, reflected in lake water, framed by snow peaks, and carried on the morning wind. Lumbini. Lumbini is one of the most sacred places in the world. Located in the plains of southern Nepal, near the border with India, Lumbini is known as the birthplace of Siddhartha Gautama, who later became the Buddha. Unlike the high mountains of Nepal, Lumbini is flat, warm, quiet, and deeply contemplative. The atmosphere here is different from the drama of Everest or Pokhara. There are no towering cliffs, no glaciers, no dangerous trails. Instead, there is silence, open space, and the feeling of standing at the beginning of a spiritual story that changed the world. At the center of Lumbini is the Maya Devi temple, built around the sacred site traditionally associated with the Buddha's birth. Nearby stands the Ashoka pillar, placed by Emperor Ashoka in the 3rd century BCE as a marker of this holy location. Pilgrims from many countries come here to walk slowly through the sacred garden. Some sit in meditation beneath trees, others offer prayers, light candles, or simply stand in silence. Around the main sacred zone, monasteries built by Buddhist communities from different countries create a remarkable international landscape. Thai, Japanese, Chinese, Burmese, Tibetan, Korean, and other architectural styles appear side by side, each expressing devotion in its own form. Lumbini belongs to the world of impossible places in a different way. It is not visually impossible. It is historically and spiritually impossible, a quiet place where one human life began, and from that life emerged a teaching, followed by millions across centuries. In Lumbini, the journey turns inward. The landscape becomes simple, but the meaning becomes immense. Which side of Nepal surprises you more, the snow mountains or the wild jungle? Write your answer in the comments below. Chitwan National Park. Chitwan National Park reveals another Nepal entirely. Far from the snow-covered Himalayas, Chitwan lies in the lowland Terai region, where dense forests, grasslands, rivers, and wetlands create one of South Asia's richest wildlife habitats. The name Chitwan means heart of the jungle, and the name fits perfectly. Here, Nepal feels tropical. The air is warmer, the forest is thick, rivers move slowly through tall elephant grass. Birds call from the trees. Crocodiles rest on riverbanks. Deer move quietly through the shadows. But Chitwan is most famous for two extraordinary animals: the one-horned rhinoceros and the Bengal tiger. Seeing a rhinoceros in the wild is unforgettable. Its massive body, armored skin, and prehistoric shape make it look like a creature from another age. Tigers are much harder to see, but their presence changes the feeling of the forest. Even when hidden, they shape the silence. For local communities, especially the Tharu people, this landscape is not only a wildlife reserve, it is home, memory, and cultural identity. Traditional houses, dances, food, and river life reveal a way of living deeply connected to the rhythms of the forest. Chitwan is one of Nepal's impossible places because it breaks the common image of the country. Many people imagine Nepal only as mountains, but here, Nepal becomes jungle, river, heat, wildlife, and ancient survival. From Everest's ice to Chitwan's forests, Nepal proves that a single country can contain entire worlds. Bhaktapur. Bhaktapur feels like a city where time has slowed down but never stopped. Located in Kathmandu Valley, Bhaktapur was once one of Nepal's powerful royal cities. Today, it remains one of the best preserved medieval urban landscapes in the country. Walking through its old streets feels less like visiting a museum and more like entering a living historical world. The city is famous for red brick buildings, carved wooden windows, pagoda temples, courtyards, pottery squares, and narrow alleys that still follow ancient patterns. Unlike modern cities built for speed, Bhaktapur was built for walking, gathering, trading, worship, and ceremony. Durbar Square is the heart of the old city. Palaces, temples, stone guardians, and carved details reveal the skill of newer artists and craftsmen. Every doorway seems to carry a story. Every roofline feels designed with both beauty and meaning. One of Bhaktapur's most iconic structures is the Nyatapola Temple, a 5-story pagoda that rises above the city with perfect balance and strength. Built in the early 18th century, it remains one of the tallest and most impressive pagoda temples in Nepal. But Bhaktapur's magic is not only in its monuments, it is also in daily life. Potters shape clay in open squares. Elderly residents sit in the sun. Children run through courtyards. Festival music echoes through the streets during special seasons. Bhaktapur belongs among Nepal's impossible places because it feels like a city resisting the pressure of time. Even after earthquakes, modernization, and change, it continues to hold its old rhythm. Here, history is not locked behind glass. It is walked on, lived in, repaired, remembered, and passed forward. Pashupatinath Temple. Pashupatinath Temple is one of the most sacred Hindu sites in Nepal. Located on the banks of the Bagmati River in Kathmandu, it is dedicated to Lord Shiva in his form as Pashupati, the Lord of all living beings. For Hindus, this is not just a temple complex. It is a place of devotion, transition, and deep spiritual meaning. The golden-roofed main temple stands at the heart of the complex, but only Hindus are allowed inside its inner sanctum. Even from outside, however, the atmosphere is powerful. Bells ring. Priests perform rituals. Devotees bring flowers, milk, and offerings. Monkeys move along stone walls. Sadhus, holy men with painted faces and saffron robes, sit near the temple grounds. Along the riverbanks are cremation platforms where funeral rites are performed in public view. For many visitors, this can be one of the most intense experiences in Nepal. But within Hindu belief, death here is not treated as an ending hidden away from life. It is part of the spiritual cycle. The Bagmati River, though physically polluted in many sections today, remains deeply sacred. Families gather here to honor loved ones, pray, and perform rituals that connect the present with ancient tradition. Pashupatinath is one of the most profound, impossible places in Nepal because it places life, death, faith, and daily routine in the same open space. Nothing is fully separated. Everything belongs to the cycle. For travelers, this place demands respect. It is not only a destination to observe, but a sacred world to enter quietly, with humility. If this journey is giving you a new view of Nepal, please like the video. It helps more people discover places beyond the usual travel map. Buddhanath Stupa. Buddhanath Stupa is one of the most recognizable spiritual monuments in Nepal. Located in Kathmandu, this massive white dome rises from a circular courtyard surrounded by monasteries, shops, prayer flags, and the constant movement of pilgrims. Above the dome, the painted eyes of the Buddha look out in all directions, creating one of the most powerful images in Himalayan Buddhism. The first thing visitors notice is the rhythm. People walk clockwise around the stupa in a practice known as kora. Some spin prayer wheels as they move, others chant softly. Monks in maroon robes walk beside local families, travelers, and elderly pilgrims. The movement continues from morning until evening, creating a living circle of devotion. Buddhanath is especially important to Tibetan Buddhist communities. After many Tibetans came to Nepal in the 20th century, the area around the stupa became a major center of Tibetan culture, religion, and identity. Monasteries, Thangka painting schools, butter lamps, and prayer chants give the surrounding neighborhood a deeply Himalayan atmosphere. At sunset, Buddhanath becomes even more unforgettable. Lamps begin to glow, prayer flags move overhead. The white dome slowly changes color in the fading light. From rooftop cafes around the square, visitors can watch the entire scene unfold like a slow, spiritual tide. This is one of Nepal's great impossible places because it turns movement into meditation. Thousands of people may be present, yet the space can still feel strangely peaceful. Buddhanath is not just a monument. It is a wheel of memory, prayer, exile, devotion, and hope, turning endlessly beneath the watchful eyes of the Buddha. Swayambhunath, Monkey Temple. Swayambhunath, often called the Monkey Temple, rises above Kathmandu from a hilltop that seems to watch over the entire valley. To reach it, visitors climb a long stone staircase lined with statues, prayer flags, shrines, and monkeys moving freely between the railings and trees. The climb is not extremely long, but it feels symbolic. With every step, the noise of Kathmandu drops slightly farther below. At the top, the great stupa appears white dome, golden spire, and the all-seeing eyes of the Buddha gazing across the valley. Around it are smaller shrines, prayer wheels, lamps, and temples reflecting both Buddhist and Hindu traditions. Swayambhunath is one of the oldest and most sacred religious sites in Nepal. According to legend, Kathmandu Valley was once a great lake, and the hill of Swayambhunath rose from it like a sacred island. Whether understood as myth or metaphor, the story gives the site a powerful sense of origin. The monkeys here are part of the temple's identity. They jump across walls, sit beside statues, and occasionally steal food from careless visitors. Their presence makes the atmosphere lively, unpredictable, and strangely charming. But the true reward is the view. From the hilltop, Kathmandu Valley spreads outward in every direction: rooftops, temples, smoke, hills, and distant mountains if the sky is clear. Swayambhunath is one of Nepal's impossible places because it feels suspended between myth and everyday life. Sacred chants mix with monkey calls. Ancient prayer wheels turn beside selfie cameras. The old and the modern share the same hill. Standing there at sunset, looking over Kathmandu, you feel that the valley itself is a living mandala. Which sacred place would you visit first? Buddhanath, Swayambhunath, or Pashupatinath? Comment your choice below. Would you climb 999 steps just to stand beneath a doorway carved by the sky itself? At Tianmen Mountain, this isn't just a hike, it's a test of willpower, lungs, and perspective. Hidden in the misty peaks of Zhangjiajie, Tianmen Mountain rises to 1,519 meters, 4,984 feet above sea level. At its heart lies the legendary Heaven's Gate, a massive natural arch known as the Eye of the Sky. To reach it, you must climb exactly 999 steps, a number symbolizing eternity in Chinese culture. People who experience this climb have strikingly honest reactions. Some say their legs would turn to jelly halfway up. Others joke they'd complain the entire way until the final steps. And a few admit they might not make it, but they'd still try. This isn't just admiration, it's respect for the challenge. The staircase is brutally steep, with sections nearing a 45-degree incline. Each step feels heavier as the air thins and your legs burn. But as you get closer to the top, something shifts. The struggle turns into anticipation. Those final steps are where effort transforms into emotion. At the summit, a surreal scene unfolds. Clouds drifting through the arch, wind echoing through the stone. It's not just a view, it's a moment of stillness after struggle. Even seasoned hikers admit they've rarely seen a reward quite like this. The deeper truth is simple. Climbs like this aren't about reaching the top, but about redefining your limits. Physically, it's an intense cardio challenge. Mentally, it's a lesson in persistence, one step at a time. Culturally, it reflects an ancient idea. The path to something sacred is never easy. So, Would you take the first step, knowing there are 998 more waiting? Or is this a journey you'd rather admire from below? Xiaozhai Tianqing, you think a sinkhole is just a small crack in the road. Not even close. There are places where the ground suddenly ends like a clean slice. And below it lies an entirely separate world, so deep the wind sounds like it's echoing from stone. Let me take you straight down into Xiaozhai Tianqing. How deep it really goes, the path that leads to the bottom, and the hidden stream flowing beneath it. According to Karst Cave surveys, Xiaozhai drops about 2,172 feet from the rim. Even measured from the lowest edge, it's still around 1,676 feet deep. The opening stretches roughly 1,969 feet across, like a stadium with its roof ripped off. To reach what feels like the floor of another world, humans carved a winding stone staircase, about 2,800 steps from the rim to the bottom. But the thing that gives you chills isn't the numbers. It's this. Down there, you're not standing on dead ground. During exploration, researchers recorded a small stream emerging from an upper cave, crossing the pit floor and disappearing into a lower cave, like a vein running through a wound in the mountain. Standing there, you understand why it's called a heavenly pit. The sky becomes just a thin ring of light, while life exists below. You look up, and the ceiling of this world is clouds. If you're into cinematic documentary vibes like Unreal/Unseen, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Drop a comment. Which heavenly pit should we explore next? Xiaozhai or Longgang? And if you want something even more vertical, check out the Longgang Heavenly Pit video in the playlist. Longgang Heavenly Pit. If there's a place where the ground looks like it was carved out with a compass, perfectly vertical, cold, and so deep, a human shadow just disappears, would you dare stand at the edge? Now let's look straight down into Longgang Tianqing, its true size, why it's called the world's first natural sinkhole well, and the surprise waiting nearby. According to Yunyang Geopark, Longgang has an elliptical shape like a giant water tank from above. Its long axis stretches about 997 to 1,070 feet. The short axis about 584 to 600 feet, and its maximum depth reaches around 1,099 feet. The walls drop almost perfectly vertical, close to a 90-degree angle, making it one of the rarest and most visually striking sinkholes on Earth. At the global recognition level, UNESCO highlights this site as home to a 1,099-foot-deep sinkhole, ranking among the 5 deepest in the world. And just when you think this is only about geology, the landscape shifts completely. UNESCO describes a great wall of dinosaur fossils here, a rock layer stretching about 11 miles long, dating back roughly 170 million years. Within a single exposed section, about 492 feet wide and 20 to 33 feet high, around 5,000 dinosaur fossils are visible, frozen in stone like a moment that never ended. Between the heavenly pit and the fossil wall, you start to realize something. This place isn't just scenery. It's a time machine carved into the earth. One step puts you at the edge of a 1,099-foot drop. The next step touches a memory from 170 million years ago. Longgang Heavenly Pit. If there's a place where the ground looks like it was carved out with a compass, perfectly vertical, cold, and so deep, a human shadow just disappears, would you dare stand at the edge? Now let's look straight down into Longgang Tiankeng, its true size, why it's called the world's first natural sinkhole well, and the surprise waiting nearby. According to Yunyang Geopark, Longgang has an elliptical shape like a giant water tank from above. Its long axis stretches about 997 to 1,070 feet. The short axis about 584 to 600 feet, and its maximum depth reaches around 1,099 feet. The walls drop almost perfectly vertical, close to a 90-degree angle, making it one of the rarest and most visually striking sinkholes on Earth. At the global recognition level, UNESCO highlights this site as home to a 1,099-foot deep sinkhole, ranking among the 5 deepest in the world. And just when you think this is only about geology, the landscape shifts completely. UNESCO describes a great wall of dinosaur fossils here, a rock layer stretching about 11 miles long, dating back roughly 170 million years. Within a single exposed section, about 492 feet wide and 20 to 33 feet high, around 5,000 dinosaur fossils are visible, frozen in stone like a moment that never ended. Between the heavenly pit and the fossil wall, you start to realize something. This place isn't just scenery. It's a time machine carved into the earth. One step puts you at the edge of a 1,099-foot drop. The next step touches a memory from 170 million years ago. Fanjing Mountain. There are mountains that aren't just tall, they're isolated, like an island rising out of a sea of stone. And that isolation creates a world that evolves by its own rules. Let's break down Fanjing Shan and what makes it so unique. Its height, its geology, and the life that exists only here. UNESCO describes Fanjing Shan as stretching from about 1,640 to 8,432 feet above sea level, a vertical ladder of climates that creates multiple layers of vegetation. What makes it truly unique is that it's a block of metamorphic rock rising out of a karst landscape, like a geological island. And when an ecosystem stays isolated long enough, nature starts writing its own species list. Now, have you ever thought about it? A single mountain acting like a mini planet for life? UNESCO records a high level of endemism here, including the Fanjing Shan fir and the Guizhou snub-nosed monkey, both found only within this protected area. Fanjing Shan is also home to the largest continuous stretch of subtropical beech forest in the region, along with endangered species like the Chinese giant salamander. Standing above a sea of clouds, you realize the most unbelievable thing isn't the landscape. It's how time has quietly preserved an ancient world, untouched. Shilin Stone Forest. You walk into a forest, but there are no leaves, only tree trunks made of stone, rising like thousands of blades, and every path pulls you deeper into a maze. Here's what makes Shilin one of the most unique landscapes on Earth: its structure, its scale, and the story behind it. UNESCO describes Shilin, part of the South China Karst, as a landscape of sharp limestone pillars sculpted by nature, recognized as a World Reference Site for pinnacle karst formations. The core area covers about 29,830 acres, with a buffer zone of around 56,660 acres. At the geopark level, UNESCO notes that in the major stone forest, clusters of stone pillars rise roughly 66 to 164 feet high, creating the illusion of a forest stretching across the horizon. And the most unbelievable part is this: these stone pillars began at the bottom of the sea. UNESCO explains that the bedrock here formed from ancient marine carbonate sediments, later uplifted and dissolved over time, shaping columns, blades, mushrooms, and towers. The Sani people, a branch of the Yi ethnic group, have lived here for over 2,000 years, their culture deeply tied to the stone forest and the epic of Ashima, a story of love, freedom, and shared memory still preserved today. At Shilin, you're not just looking at rocks, you're walking through a story of an ancient sea, of time itself, and of human life. If you enjoy cinematic, unreal, unseen documentaries like this, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Drop a comment. Do you prefer the stone forest or the heavenly pits? And if you want to shift from limestone karst to red Danxia landscapes, check out the Jianglang Mountain episode. Taimu Mountain. There are mountains that feel like they were meant to face the ocean. You stand on stone, breathe in the salty air, and behind you is a sea of clouds, a rare moment where mountains and ocean exist in the same frame. Now we explore Taimu and what makes it so different: its granite caves, its ocean-facing terrain, and something called stone eggs. According to Fujian authorities, Fuding Taimushan National Geopark covers about 27 square miles, known for its granite peaks with hollow crystal structures, crack-formed valleys and caves, and rocks shaped like natural sculptures. What makes it stand out is that there are over 100 stacked stone caves, an unusually dense and unique formation rarely seen elsewhere. The region is also described as facing the sea on 3 sides and backed by mountains on one, officially recognized as a major national scenic area since 1988. But the feature that makes Taimu feel like something out of science fiction is the stone eggs. UNESCO includes Taimu Mountain as part of the Ningde Global Geopark, describing its Maya-Litic granite peaks and the stone egg formations, rounded boulders formed through magma activity and long-term weathering. UNESCO also highlights local cultural experiences, from traditional rice cakes made by the Shi people to intricate paper-cutting art. At Taimu, you see something rare: time frozen in stone. while the present still lives and breathes right at the edge of the sea. Longhu Mountain. There are places where rock is more than just rock. It becomes a stage for belief. Towering red cliffs, a winding green river, and within those mountain gaps, an entire culture took shape. Let's move through the two layers of Longhu, the geology and the culture that grew inside it. UNESCO describes Longhu Global Geopark as covering nearly 386 square miles, centered around Longhu Mountain, rising to about 4,836 feet, featuring late-stage Danxia landforms, red cliffs, deep gorges, winding rivers, and waterfalls. As part of global heritage, Longhu is also included in the UNESCO-listed China Danxia landscapes. But Longhu doesn't just tell the story of stone. It tells the story of people. UNESCO clearly states this geopark is culturally rich, recognized as the origin of both cliff burial traditions and Taoism. Longhu is considered the cradle of Taoism and the only place authorized to issue official Taoist certifications. The geopark also protects ancient cliff coffins over 2,600 years old, silent traces that send chills down your spine when you look up at the red cliffs. At Longhu, geology creates the landscape. The landscape shapes belief. And belief, in turn, helps preserve the landscape. Jianglang Mountain. There's a gateway in the mountains where, the moment you step inside, the sky shrinks into a thin line. They call it the one line of sky, and it makes you feel small in the most direct way possible. Now we're stepping into Jianglang, a place where rock formations reshape your sense of scale. UNESCO describes China Danxia as landscapes formed on red continental sediments, uplifted and then shaped by weathering and erosion into cliffs, pillars, gorges, and waterfalls, and Jianglangshan is one of the 6 sites in this group. At Jianglang, the Danxia isn't soft or rolling. It rises sharply and presses inward, like 3 massive pillars of the sky standing side by side. And here's the shock. That narrow passage isn't just tight. It's incredibly tall. Reports describe the one line of sky at Jianglangshan as about 1,024 feet high, 978 feet long, and just over 10 feet wide, creating the feeling that 2 mountains were split apart, leaving only a thin strip of sky above your head. In 2010, Jianglangshan was officially added to the UNESCO World Heritage List as part of China Danxia. When you walk through that passage, you start to understand something. Sometimes, a wonder isn't what you see. It's the feeling of being compressed between stone and sky in a single frame. Subscribe if you want more unreal/unseen places like this. Do you want the next episode to explore Danxia like Longhu, or karst like Shaojai and Longgang? And if you want a sharp shift in geology, from red rock to limestone forests, check out the Shillin Stone Forest episode. This place looks like the future of cities done perfectly, but what if it's built more for your eyes than for real life? At first glance, this waterfront space in Chengdu almost doesn't feel real. Clean, modern shapes blend effortlessly with traditional architecture, creating something that feels both ancient and futuristic at the same time. People online are calling it stunning, perfectly balanced, even a blueprint for future cities. And honestly, I get it. It's the kind of place that makes you stop scrolling instantly. But here's where things get interesting. Some people pointed out something most of us don't think about. What does it actually feel like to be inside this place? From certain angles, it looks incredible, but from others, you might just be facing blank walls or enclosed spaces. So now, the question changes completely. Is this a place meant to be lived in or just admired? Then come the real-world questions. What happens when it rains? Does all that water bring mosquitoes? And how does this place actually function day to day? People even started debating engineering, drainage, and pest control. And that's when you know this isn't just a pretty place, it actually makes people think. Here's my personal take as someone who creates travel content. We're living in a time where places are often designed to look amazing on camera first and function second. And that's not always a bad thing. But as travelers, we need to shift how we look at places. Don't just ask if it's beautiful. Ask yourself what it actually feels like to be there. Because real travel isn't just what you see. It's what you feel, what you hear, and what stays with you after you leave. What I find most interesting is this. Places like this bring up a bigger question about the future of cities. Can modern design grow without losing cultural identity? Some people think this is the perfect balance. Others think it's just visual storytelling. And honestly, the truth is probably somewhere in between. So next time you see a place that looks a little too perfect, take a second and think about it. Is this somewhere you'd actually want to experience, or just somewhere you'd take a photo and move on? In the next segment, let's explore some of China's impossible places together. Jijin Cave. Some caves feel like tunnels. Jijin Cave feels like an underground world with its own architecture. The moment you enter, the scale starts changing your expectations. Chambers open wider than you think they should. Rock curtains, columns, stalactites, and stone formations rise and fall in ways that make the whole interior feel designed rather than accidental. That's one reason Jijindong has built such a reputation. It sits at the heart of a karst geopark in Guizhou and is widely recognized as one of the region's defining underground landscapes. The cave is not just one chamber with a few formations. It is part of a much broader karst system shaped through long geological history, which is why the scenery feels so varied as you move deeper inside. One section feels cathedral-like, another feels theatrical, another feels almost alien. What makes Jijin Cave so strong as a travel subject is the combination of scale and intimacy. Big caves can sometimes feel empty, but this one doesn't. Even in the largest spaces, your eye keeps catching detail. Delicate mineral textures, strange crystal growths, stone drapery, sharp points, smooth flow stone, and forms that look almost sculpted by hand. That constant shift between vastness and detail keeps the experience alive. You're never just looking into darkness, you're constantly discovering shape. And because it's underground, the whole thing carries a different emotional rhythm from a mountain or canyon. The light is controlled, the sound is softer, the outside world falls away. Jijin Cave is the kind of place that reminds you how much of Earth's drama happens out of sight, below the surface, where time works slowly and leaves behind something that feels less like scenery and more like a secret. Gaoyiling Ridge. Gaoyiling looks like somebody took a red ridge, sharpened it, then wrapped green water around it just to make the whole place even more dramatic. That contrast is the first hit. You have these smooth, rounded Danxia ridges rising in narrow lines, then steep drop-offs on both sides, then still water sitting low around the rock like a mirror. It is one of those landscapes that feels almost too neatly composed. The shapes are simple, but the effect is intense. Gaoyiling is famous for its Danxia landforms, and what makes them so visually powerful here is the way the ridges flatten on top, but fall away sharply at the sides. That creates paths and viewpoints that feel exposed, airy, and cinematic, without needing huge elevation to impress. It's the kind of terrain that immediately reads well on screen because every curve, line, and edge is so clean. But the reason Gaoyiling sticks in your head is not just because it is photogenic, it's because walking it changes the mood completely. From afar, it looks elegant. Up close, it feels thrilling. The ridges narrow, the water starts to matter more, and the whole experience becomes about balance and perspective. You're not charging through a forest or climbing a chaotic mountain. You're moving through a landscape that feels sculpted for suspense, and yet it never loses its beauty. The red stone stays warm, the lakes keep the scene calm, and the open views make the place feel bigger than it is. Gaoyiling is one of those rare destinations where a landform does all the storytelling by itself. No giant monument, no heavy mythology, no extra spectacle needed. Just rock, water, shape, and the kind of visual tension that makes a short walk feel like a complete experience. Mount Hua. Mount Hua doesn't ask for your attention. It dares you to keep going. This mountain has been famous for centuries for one simple reason. It looks steep and then somehow becomes even steeper once you're on it. Granite walls rise hard and clean. Stairways cling to the mountain. Chains, ridges, and narrow routes turn the climb into something that feels part pilgrimage, part personal test. Mount Hua is one of China's great sacred mountains and one of its most legendary climbs, known for its dramatic paths, 5 main peaks, and deep Taoist history. That combination is exactly why it works so well as a travel story. You are not just moving higher, you are moving into a place where faith, fear, scenery, and endurance have been layered together for a very long time. What makes Mount Hua unforgettable is the emotional sequencing. At the base, it feels impressive. Midway up, it feels serious. Near the exposed sections, it feels personal. The mountain strips away distraction because the terrain demands attention. Every step matters more. Every railing feels valuable. Every viewpoint feels earned. And then, once you reach a high ridge or stand near one of the peaks, the whole emotional tone flips. The danger gives way to clarity. The hard rock, the open sky, the temples, and the distance all combine into something almost meditative. That is Mount Hua's real magic. It is not dangerous just for the sake of danger, and it is not sacred only as an abstract label. It is a mountain where physical commitment sharpens perception. By the time you've really experienced it, the place stops feeling like a famous attraction and starts feeling like one of the clearest examples of how landscape can challenge your body and quiet your mind at the same time. Subscribe for more structured travel stories like this. Comment: would you actually climb Mount Hua or stop at the view? If this journey amazed you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us which place in Nepal you would visit first. See you in the next adventure.